Next speaker is Mike Finley, CEO of Boingo Wireless. So Mike is a long-time executive on the telecom space. He serves on the board of several organizations, including CTIA. He's a long-time friend of WBA and supporter of the Alliance. And is coming today to talk about connectivity in action, special for the enterprise sector. And let me pass a video before we invite Mike to the stage.
For New Yorkers, taking the train is part of our daily lives. But have you ever stopped to think about how it gets built and how we get these things to work on the trains, and especially in the tunnels? I'm Errol Lewis. I'm going to take you on a trip to Grand Central Madison, a long-awaited $11 billion project that has increased train capacity into and out of Manhattan by 50% and shortened commute times by a staggering 40 minutes. We're going to visit one of the biggest rail terminals in all of America. Join me. Grand Central Madison is 18 stories beneath Grand Central Terminal. That's like putting almost the entire height of the iconic Flatiron building underground. This is where you'll find the Long Island Railroad Terminal. And to get there, you take the brand new escalators that will stretch 182 feet long and 90 feet high. This combination of innovation and convenience includes integrated Wi-Fi and cellular service. Boingo was selected by the MTA to provide that connectivity. I spoke with the CEO, Mike Finley, about what it takes to provide these kinds of services to millions of commuters. You're providing connectivity on all of the platforms, all the way through the tunnels. And does that include underneath the East River?
It does. There's 2 new tunnels underneath the East River. So where we're at here, we're 18 stories below ground. We run hundreds of miles of cable, 10 miles of track, and 3 million square feet. So this is a very complex connectivity build. They all are. This one is at the top of the scale, and what the Boingo team and engineers have done a wonderful job building this out and creating connectivity here for all types of uses.
All of this 5G innovation, what does it mean for a regular user, somebody like me?
It's pretty incredible. Everybody wants connectivity. Not only can you have conversations, you can text, you can get your information, you can watch a movie. From an operational side for MTA, it really enables safety, security, the utilization of cameras.
The commuters are happy, they're doing work. Operations is happening as well. I imagine, I don't see any of it, but there's got to be a lot going on behind the scenes here.
The design of this is one of the great feats of the world that we live in technology-wise.
Nearly 6 decades of planning and construction went into the creation of Grand Central Madison. With a project of that size, it's clear the MTA wanted it to be first class all the way around. It fuses innovation, community, and connection. Thanks for joining me on this trip into the future of commuting in New York. Until next time, stay connected.
Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Tiago.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Well, that's my whole presentation. Not sure what I can add to that. Let me start by thanking Tiago for having me here today, WBA, JR, and AT&T, the great leadership you guys show across everything that we all do. Thank you for doing that for us here today. And look, at Boingo, we've been part of WBA for a long time, over a decade. Derek Peterson does a fantastic job. There he is, showing. Brings passion every day about a lot of things, but WBA is right at the top of it. So we appreciate that. And Derek, we thank you for all you're doing. I'm going to talk today a little bit about convergence. We're a big believer in convergence. Most of you know Boingo as building the first Wi-Fi networks in airports, primarily. Back in the day when there wasn't Wi-Fi and devices, it's hard to fathom that day. My kids don't really know that day. Although I just learned and reminded myself that my wife and I are very forward thinking. Our oldest son is born on June 20th. So he's going to be upset when I post about I love Wi-Fi Day and not his birthday, but we'll deal with it. But look, we've been apart here for a long time, and you know, converging networks, it's complicated, but we feel strongly that when you get off a plane, a train, or wherever you're at, you don't really care what network you're on, you care that your device works. And thanks to our great partners, the carriers, AT&T, and the work that Boingo's done, we're accomplishing that goal in a lot of the places that we're at. So look, whether it's 3G, 4G, or 5G, or, you know, we're not allowed to talk about 6G yet, I guess, which is fair. But Wi-Fi 5, 6, 7 now, it's great to be a part of all that. And I'm going to talk today about specifically what you just heard is Grand Central Madison, really an incredible feat. What wasn't in the video, which is pretty interesting, it really highlights kind of the new and the old, if you will. You know, we believe what we do at Boingo is we're a creator of connectivity. We think that people want to have connectivity everywhere. I don't think I have a lot of dissenters in this room on that. However, building this out, this Grand Central Madison, which is brand new, it opened in November. Those tunnels under the East River have been being built since 1974. So it took that long to get those tunnels. So you can imagine in the design and the build, those are 50-year-old tunnels trying to get modern technology, not just cellular, but train technology. So we went through a lot of iterations, but our team did a phenomenal job of designing the network and creating a network that people can now not just use devices and connectivity on platforms, but also under the tunnels and on the ride. So you can see here, no surprise, these stats are in New York, but I think they'd be true anywhere. People want to use their phones. 70% use their phones, not 79% are using it daily. They want to access the network on their phones, and it's almost 2 hours of commute time. So let me talk a little bit about the project. So I mentioned there's kind of a new and an old. There's the Grand Central Madison, which is these new tunnels under Grand Central Station and creating this new connectivity. And then there's also the railroad part of it, which these railroads were created in 1877. So I'm pretty sure they weren't planning for wireless connectivity when they did that, but we had to work together. So you can see one of the largest projects, the largest project of New York MTA, $11 billion, 10 miles of track, over 162,000 customers each day. That's the trains and the commutes are really picking up. So it's really creating a whole new opportunity, shortening commutes by almost 40 minutes. And what we did is created a converged network, Wi-Fi and 4 and 5G. CBRS is also a possibility there, but I think you can see here the complexity of this build. 100+ miles of cable. By the way, we won this award in 2018, and it got completed in fall of 2023. So you can imagine how many days and nights the benefit we had, since it was a new tunnel and a new track, there weren't active trains. So we were able to get the build. COVID hits in the middle of us. Our team only missed 1 week of work during COVID. We're very proud of that. You know, they went back in and started completing this work. It still took 5 years. You know, it's a long time, hundreds of APs and 3 million square feet of networking. So you saw from the video, been there recently. It's very active. The network, that escalator really created a lot of challenges. We spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to make that work with the ceiling heights, the length of the escalator, putting nodes, access points in the panels, where you put them. Everybody here kind of would understand that. A lot of trial and error, and of course, you know, working with our carrier partners to make all this work. So that's been an amazing feat. Very proud of the Boingo team. A number of our teams are here today. So the next piece of this is now the railroads, Jamaica Station and Atlantic Terminal. So in this particular case, it's the 4th busiest station in the world, in the Americas, 200,000 riders. We converged 5G and Wi-Fi to bring this together. There's, 18 miles of network. And the big deal here is prior to this, there was basically connectivity on the platforms. So that's great. the MTA and a lot of our public partners, airports, transportation hubs, one of the things that's really impressive to me is they really focus on the user experience. They really want the user to have a great experience. And there's other benefits that they're getting as well. Obviously, a little thing, I love this when I heard this. For those of you who have ridden trains in New York before, they've moved to kind of a system where your badge is how they charge you, essentially. So somebody told me the trick is when you get on the train, you have to sit in the corner and act like you're sleeping and turn your badge over so that the conductor, couldn't charge you. And so connectivity now for them becomes more practical because not unlike, the Amazon walkouts and things like that, eventually where the trains will move to is you walk on the train, you're getting charged, that's your device and stuff. So they're very proactive, they're very creative, they're very innovative, and they care a lot about the user experience. Obviously, safety is a big factor with cameras and things like that, especially in big cities like New York. But you can all imagine building this network, designing this network, making it a converged network. Again, users don't necessarily care what network they're on, they care that it works. The venues care that it's on and working, both for their end users, but also for the security of what they're doing. So as Thiago mentioned, all the great things that WBA is doing, we feel strongly about convergence, bringing together, the carrier networks with our great carrier partners. We work on their behalf to build out their networks. We converge it with our Wi-Fi networks and bring those together. So the venue has a great experience, the passenger has a great experience. And, as we go forward, we see that continuing on. So as Thiago just highlighted, seamless connections, interoperable, collaboration between the carriers, the service providers, the vendors, the venues, enterprises, and bringing all this great technology together. It's interesting, when I saw the chart a little earlier, prior to joining Boingo, I was at Qualcomm, and when 4G was coming out in 2010, people always ask, well, what are the use cases? I know JR and AT&T gets this all the time. What are the use cases? Well, when 4G was coming out, here's 3 use cases that weren't even highlighted: Uber, Lyft, and streaming. So those weren't use cases of 4G. When 5G came in, same question, what are the use cases? And there was a lot of, wow, we can do, these great things with telehealth. We can do these things with robotic cleaning, and it all sound very futuristic. There was a lot of autonomous vehicles and driving. But at the end of the day, it really didn't come into play until our industry, and I'll highlight the carriers here. When you go back in time of what the great work the carriers did during COVID, not only to enable networks, but to keep all of us connected with robotic cleaning in big stadiums and airports, contactless entry, contactless concessions. Prior to that, basically the technology going into a stadium was your phone could be used as your ticket. That was about it. And so now when you look at our modern day life, as I said, Boingo feels we're a creator of connectivity, big venues, train stations. We're on 90 military bases, creating connectivity to our troops. But the great work that the WBA does, we're very proud to be a part of it. Derek and our team, as I mentioned, really bring it forward for us. So we're very happy to be here, and really thank you for having me today and Boingo here today. It's great to be in Dallas, our new hometown. Didn't have to get on a plane. I just had to drive down the road today. So Thiago, thank you for having me in Boingo today. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Let's check if there is any questions to Mike from anyone. There is one question here.
Mini-me.
Yeah, my brand new station is huge. Is it like the sort of European train stations where it's not just getting the people in and out? There's like a giant underground ball of all kinds of business services as they go past.
Yeah, it's. I should have highlighted that. Yeah, it's everything you think. It's if you've been to Grand Central, there's a whole bunch of retail stores. There's an Apple store there. There's a whole bunch of things. When you go 8 stories below, it's now a little more retail. There's food. There's other services and things like that. So most of it is getting people in and out of trains. But they did spend a lot of time and effort to create other venues for people. The combination of the whole Grand Central is pretty robust. They've done a lot of work at the original as well, and there's more to come. There's a lot of work going on, in Penn Station and Grand Central in New York. But yeah, there's a bunch of other things that are there. It's primarily food and things that are down there.
Yeah. One question for me, Mike. How challenging it was to bring all these stakeholders together? So, railway authorities, carriers, train operators, how to bring everyone together?
Yes, that was quite challenging.
Yeah.
Not the carriers. In all fairness, the carriers were very supportive. Quite honestly, AT&T was. I'm not just saying that because we're in Dallas and AT&T, but they were the lead with that and really helped bring it together. So the carriers obviously understood the value in bringing it together. The vendors, it was pretty unique build. So we got a lot of support from vendors, that wanted to be there and participate because the outcome was going to be as long as we did it, it was going to be a good outcome. You have to remember, it was during COVID. There was a lot of questions at the time of, would people ever come back to New York?
Yeah.
So, this was not only the largest project for MTA, but it was the largest project for Boingo in our history. So we were building this out, with the hope and belief that New York would survive. People would want to come back to work in the city and things like that. And then, quite honestly, the longest pole in the tent, and it just is what it is. I highlighted it wasn't an active train and tunnel.
Yeah.
So we had more access to the tunnels, but for MTA and the train, Long Island Railroad, where you have active trains running, they have people wanting to get back and forth. So the hardest part was building it out primarily at night and weekends, where the trains had to be stopped, not active. So they had to give up and cut back on some of the transportation. And then you have to get people that want to come work on weekends and hours, and you get 8 hours, and you get a couple hours to set up and a couple hours to tear down. So it's a very expensive proposition to build, and I think our partners that we were working on behalf of, the carriers and the venue and the venue, appreciated the fact that this isn't your kind of normal run of the mill. Build it up. This kind of standard template cost, and here we do it. Most of the builds we do are very complicated. Sometimes they're new, and it just takes a lot of time. You're dealing with labor costs that are very high, particularly in New York. And so it's a very expensive thing to do, but I think the outcome's been spectacular. We're hearing great stories of people on the trains that are looking over to somebody and saying, how is your device working? Yeah. Because of all that time, it just wasn't there. And so now it is. And, but yeah, it was as we look back on it, I look at some of our team, we look back on it. We have a number of those things we're doing right now that are kind of down to the wire. We're doing the same thing. But they did a phenomenal job. It's a big part to design it, get it right, get the carriers engaged, getting support of, agreeing with what we're doing, helping us with what we're doing. And when all that comes together, then the outcome is spectacular, and this is a good case.
Yeah, you should be proud of all the achieved with that project. It's a great project.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah.
So thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Appreciate it.